So we'll do both annotation and pop-ups?
Yes.
Look at actually it's coming down, so.
Oh, okay, yeah, very good. I know my husband uses a slightly different one. And now Evernote has a sibling app out called Penultimate.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is also a note-taking program. I have not tried it yet. It was free. I downloaded it.
Yeah, I use it all the time for collecting links on the net.
My Evernote's chock full. I haven't used Penultimate yet.
Yeah, I haven't tried the other, but it really is great. It's like, oh, whatever it is, theology, music, politics, So
I see a hand moving.
keeping up these browsers with 50 million tabs that.
Welcome.
There we go.
I don't know what I did. I just walked away with 50 pieces of paper at all times.
She's here.
We have
No audio. I wonder if she has audio.
No audio.
I don't know if you can hear us, but we can't hear you yet. Oh, okay.
I can hear you.
Hello.
Hello.
Wow, that's amazing. That's so much better than Skype.
No.
Yeah, well, okay. I'm sorry if I'm keeping you waiting.
Only barely. We trickled in ourselves. So let's go ahead and start then. First, I want to start by thanking everybody that came, both my committee for all the time that you've given me already, and my friends and family for driving out to Greensboro, and Dr. Is it Sebas rather than Cypus?
No.
Oh, cool.
Sorry, it is like this.
Oh, okay. For dialing in. We can start.
Should we just introduce ourselves maybe?
Oh, sure. Yeah, before we start, let's
don't know each
just
other.
introductions.
I'm Kylan Rubinoff. I'm an assistant professor of musicology.
He's distracting.
There we go.
Is it on right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Sorry.
Okay. We're just going to introduce ourselves here. I'm Kylan Rubinoff. I'm an assistant professor of musicology.
Hi, I'm Marjorie Bagley. I'm associate professor of violin.
Hi, I'm Scott Rawls, Associate Professor of Viola.
Andre Lash, Adjunct Professor of Organ, and I also teach some performance practice classes.
I'm Rebecca Cypress, and I'm an assistant professor at Rutgers.
Welcome.
I'm very pleased to be with you.
And possibly the only other person on the planet that's interested in this piece right now. So, let's start. The Capriccio Stravagante is a strange piece. It says so on its title page. It advertises itself as einem kurzweiligen Quodlibet von allerhand seltsamen Inventionen. That is a diverting or entertaining or humorous quodlibet, there's no direct translation for that, full of all kinds of curious or strange or peculiar, outlandish, remarkable inventions. I titled my talk today Curious Inventions rather than strange or outlandish inventions for the double sense both of curious in the Alice in Wonderland sense of curiouser and curiouser, these striking and unusual effects, and more of the connotation that's in invention of human curiosity and investigation.
Hang on just one second, we've lost...
Oh, no, that's intentional. Lane said he'd just
She's
the
there.
picture
Oh,
from
okay,
time to
so
time.
she is there. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. She's back there.
He can still do it.
Okay.
The content of the Capriccio ranges from the sublime to the grotesque. By the way, Lane, if we could get a little bit more volume. Sure. to the outright ridiculous. The piece is written for 4 bowed string instruments, most likely a violin, 2 violas, and a cello, or at least the early 17th century version of what would later be a violoncello. Over the course of the piece, these string instruments are called on to imitate the timbres of other instruments, trumpets, shawms, organs, and guitars, as well as the sounds of several animals, chickens, the cats that we heard, and dogs. The Capriccio Stravagante was written by the Italian violinist Carlo Farina, and was published in 1627 in Dresden, where he was employed at the time. He published it in a collected volume with various other pavans, galliards, and dance pieces, but the title of the volume highlights the Capriccio as a particular feature. The title page is in German, and so refers to the piece as the Kurzweiligen Quodlibet, but if you turn into the book, you find the Italian title, the Capriccio Stravagante. A reasonable question at the outset is, why is this piece worth studying? Well, up until recently, it hasn't been considered worth studying in any significant way. Quite a few voices from 1869 up until now have given it passing mention, but never more than a few paragraphs at a time. And Dr. Sipos wrote an article last year that's pretty much longer than all prior discussion of the piece put together. But so, at least in these cases, why is it worth passing mention? Typically for this idea of an evolutionary merit to the piece, in which the Capriccio either advances violin technique or anticipates later violin technique. But that, we'll get into, is ultimately a problematic idea, so perhaps a better reason would be that the Capriccio represents a useful vehicle for examining these instruments that are represented in it. Though there isn't a whole lot, there's a little bit, but not much that it can tell us that we can't already learn from other sources. But at least for the layman, like me, picking it up, who doesn't know what a shawm is or what a lira di braccio is, it's a good jumping off point for investigating Baroque instruments. I gave a very different lecture a couple of years ago, just called a Baroque instrument petting zoo with the Duke Instrument collection. They got to feature some of their versions of these instruments that they had. But ultimately, a sort of more impactful way of looking at the Capriccio is for its ability to stand as an example of a certain mindset within early 17th century instrumental writing, the stravaganza that it refers to in the title. A school of instrumental writing that we could refer to as the stile moderno. We'll talk more about that in just a moment. One important facet of the piece is the fact that Farina left fairly explicit text instructions on how it should be performed. These were consisted of about a page each of Italian and German. I pulled a little bit of sleight of hand here, they weren't actually facing. The Italian page comes first. And are referred to as a few avvertimenti, or necessary reminders. So in the future I'll just refer to them as avvertimenti. These are indeed necessary reminders because Farina painstakingly explains such commonplace modern features as first and second endings, double stops, slurs, and playing above first position. But he also provides very precise instructions. For instance, the section labeled Il Flatino, he says, should be played ponticello with the bow exactly half a finger's width away from the bridge. And more helpfully, Farina's avvertimenti provide clear clues to the identities of some of the instruments he imitates, even those about which there has been some misunderstanding. The first thing that we have to do when looking at the Capriccio is to come to terms with the use that we make of it. We have to make sense of the piece in some way and to find or assign a function to it. And ultimately, what we get out of the piece will depend on the function that we decide on. For most of the commenters up until a few years ago, the 19th and early 20th century comments, these typically centered around this supposed evolutionary value for the piece, in which the piece's artistic faults are excused because, in the words of Wilhelm Wasilewski, composition for the violin was still in its childhood, and in the words of his son, Waldemar, the time was not yet ripe for the expression of poetic sentiments in music, which has blossomed with such wondrous beauty in the instrumental works of our heroes of art. A model like this imagines Farina to be conscious of his benighted primitivism and to have, quote, the technical development of his instrument uppermost in his mind, to be anxious to do his part to bring about the wondrous blossom of the Romantic period heroes of art, which of course he could not see from his vantage point. Some of these commenters, like Wasilewski and Paul Stoving, suggest that the piece's functional value is as a valuable document of the obviously manifest violin technique of the time, while others, like Edmund van der Strijten, see the piece more as an initial germination of techniques that would be more commonly used in later centuries, the first germs of our present violin literature, or first random trials and experimental uses of the violin by trying to find new effects which nobody else had tried before. Note that these latter views make an assumption that is directly opposite to Wasilewski's. Rather than documenting techniques that were already manifest in early 17th century practice, the Capriccio is supposed to be inventing new ones for the benefit of later centuries. Most of these commenters are also fairly hard on the Capriccio as an aesthetic object. Boris Schwartz says that there is no use pretending that it had musical value. And one of the actually latest comments in 1990, Billy Appel says the Capriccio Stravagante is best forgotten. But they apologize for talking about it at all on the basis of its technical value. Quote, however,